A millionaire was rejected by 20 blind dates. Only a poor miner girl said yes. But before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from today. And if this story moves you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more powerful stories just like this one. Before this story begins, tell me in the comments, have you ever been completely underestimated because of how you look? Dorian Vale, age 35, was everything the tabloids loved to write about, heir to Vale Tech Industries, and painfully single. 6 months ago, he agreed to a challenge from his sister Camille. Try 20 blind dates. Real people, no filters, no Googling, just show up, he agreed. For fun, but he didn't expect every woman to say no. The first 10 were polite, you see, intense. The next 5 barely looked up from their phones. The last 5, they left before dessert. I don't get it, Dorian muttered to Camilla as they sat on the terrace of his penthouse. Am I that unlikable? Camille arched a brow. You're rich, brilliant, and brooding. It's intimidating. You need someone real, someone who doesn't care what's in your bank account. Dorian laughed. Where do I find her? She smirked. You don't do one last blind date. No background, no glam, no setup. Just trust me, he rolled his eyes. Fine, but if she walks out, I'm done. That weekend, Dorian drove himself, no chauffeur, no PR, to a small diner on the edge of town. He expected another What he got was dust. Boots. The girl sitting in the booth wore jeans with faded seams, a flannel shirt rolled at the sleeves, and dirt still on her hands. Her dark braid hung down her back, and her nails were chipped, but her eyes, sharp, steady, amused. You're late, she said with a grin. He blinked. You're my date. She leaned forward. You're not the only one surprised. My cousin signed me up as a joke. I came for the free pie. He chuckled. Pie and a billionaire. Not a bad trade. She smirked. We'll see. Her name was Rowan Harley, 29, and she worked in the mines of Treston Ridge. For towns over, she loaded ore during the day and fixed engines at night. I get paid by the rock, she said as they sipped coffee. If it sparkles, it sells. He nodded. And if it doesn't, I still dig. For the first time in months, Dorian felt something unusual. Relaxed. No pretenses. No one trying to impress him. Just real. He walked her to a rusted truck afterward. Do I get to see you again? He asked. Rowan smiled. If you're willing to get your shoes dirty. Then she drove off, leaving behind tire marks and a very curious billionaire. If you believe that connection matters more than appearances, hit that like button and let us know in the comments. Over the next few weeks, Dorian did something completely unthinkable. He left the city and drove to Treston Ridge. The first time he showed up, he wore loafers. Rowan laughed at him for 20 straight minutes. You'll ruin those before lunch, she said, handing him a pair of steel-toe boots. The second time, she'll let him help carry boots. He spilled one and nearly fell down the shaft. You're cute, she teased, but hopeless. By the 4th visit, he was lifting, sorting, and joking with the other miners. Rowan had something he never found in the city. Purpose without polish. At night, they sat on her porch, sipping cheap beer under cheap string lights. She asked about his life. He told her everything: his father's pressure, the loneliness behind the title, the partners who only cared about his net worth. She listened, then said, you don't talk like a billionaire. He grinned. You don't talk like someone who digs rocks for a living. She nodded. That's because I don't. Dorian raised an eyebrow. Come again, I'm not just a miner. I inherited the claim after my dad passed, but I've been building something else. She reached into a crate beside the porch and pulled out a stack of hand-cut stones. These are mine. I designed jewelry from local minerals. Nothing big, just Etsy for now, but I've got orders coming in. He stared. I've been investing everything I make into expanding. I'm saving up for real tools, maybe a small studio. Dorian said nothing. Then softly, you've built more from nothing than half the people in my world ever will. Rowan shrugged. Maybe, but I still go to sleep covered in dirt. He smiled. Maybe that's where the real shine is. What would you have done in this exact situation? Pursue a life of wealth or take a chance on someone real? Comment your answer before we reveal what happened next. 2 months later, Dorian was invited to an elite investor gala in Los Angeles. Black tie, 6-figure champagne, velvet ropes. He dreaded it. And Rowan said, I'll go. He looked up, surprised. Really, she shrugged. You've been coming to my world. Might as well see yours, but it's a lot, he warned. The people, the clothes, the stares. She grinned. Let him stare. And so, 2 weeks later, Rowan Harley stepped into a ballroom filled with diamonds, wearing a dress she made herself. No designer label, just hand-sewn black velvet, with a raw green stoned necklace that shimmered against her collarbone. Dorian stared at her like he forgot how to breathe. You sure you're not secretly royalty? He whispered. She winked. Just a miner with a needle. But as they entered the ballroom, whispers followed. Is that his assistant? She's wearing boots under that gown. She's not even wearing makeup. Dorian ignored them. But Rohan noticed. And then an investor's wife, glittered in diamonds, walked over. Oh, hello dear, she said sweetly. Didn't realize catering was doing table tours now. Rowan smiled, but her eyes turned to steel. I dig rocks for a living, she said calmly, and I know a fake diamond when I see one. The woman flushed red. Dorian almost choked, trying not to laugh, but the real twist was still coming. As the gala's keynote speaker was introduced, a hush fell. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest, Dorian Vale. He took the stage, adjusting his tie. Tonight, I was supposed to speak about legacy, growth, and return on investment. But I'd rather talk about someone who taught me something more valuable than all of that. He looked directly at Rowan. She builds beauty from dirt, grace from grit, and purpose from pain. Her name is Rohan Hale, and I wouldn't trade 20,000 matches for one of her yeses. The room froze, then erupted in murmurs. Rohan stood stunned. Dorian stepped down and offered her his hand. This is the kind of partnership I want, he said. But just then, a voice came from the side of the room. Excuse me, Dorian Vale is under audit. This event may be in violation of insider trading protocol. A man in a gray suit stepped forward with a federal badge. Everyone turned. Gasps. Dorian stiffened. What are you talking about? He asked. The man opened a folder. There's been a whistleblower. Someone with internal access to your recent investments. We need to speak now. Rowan grabbed Dorian's hand, but inside her palm was something small and sharp. The green stone she wore around her neck. She slipped it into his hand and whispered, if someone planted this on you, don't sign anything until you test the evidence. Dorian was escorted out of the gala under a storm of flashing cameras and whispered speculation. Inside the town car, the federal agent sat across from him with a sealed evidence bag, inside a green gemstone, almost identical to Rowan's. This was submitted as part of an anonymous tip, the agent explained. Says you've been manipulating rare mineral valuations tied to your upcoming merger. Dorian frowned. I don't deal in raw minerals. The agent looked skeptical, then explained why this exact cut showed up in your private portfolio under a shell company. Dorian stared at the stone, and then he realized it wasn't Rowan's, it was a fake. Not in material, but in context. Someone was trying to frame him using a gem that looked like hers. Where was this found? He asked slowly. In your assistant's bag. She claims you gave it to her to catalog. Dorian's blood went cold. His assistant was also the one who had access to every financial file tied to his holdings. He grabbed his phone. Rowan, we've been set up. If someone tried to destroy your life using something tied to the person you love, what would you do? Comment your answer before we show you how Rowan fought back. Rowan didn't waste time. She drove straight to Dorian's office, still dressed in her black velvet gown, with dust from her boots staining the marble floor. Inside, she faced a room full of board members and security guards. Ma'am, you can't be here, someone said. She held up a sample tray from her truck-reel stones, raw and uncut. These, she said firmly, are from Treston Ridge. That one you're accusing him of using. It's not ours. It's a counterfeit. The board scoffed, until Rowan opened a small scanner. She placed the stone into the chamber, read out tungsten treated, not Ridge origin. She turned to them. Whoever planted that was sloppy and arrogant. Then she slid a photo across the table. It was Dorian's assistant talking to a broker who had once tried to buy Rowan's claim rights months ago. I didn't forget his face, she said, and I don't forget betrayal. One of the board members frowned. Are you saying someone from our own firm planted this? I'm saying, Rowan replied, that someone is terrified of Dorian going honest, so they dragged me into it to dirty his name. A silence swept the room. Then Dorian walked in, escorted but unchained. He looked at Rowan. You brought your rocks. She smirked. Saved your legacy with a bucket of dirt. 2 days later, the truth unraveled. Dorian's assistant had been approached by a competitor, offered a massive payout to plant evidence, then disappear with access to all digital records. But she made one mistake. She underestimated a girl from the mines. The whistleblower claim was tossed. Dorian's name cleared, and his competitors publicly exposed. Later that week, Dorian held a press conference not to declare his innocence, but to announce something much bigger. I'm stepping down as CEO of Vale, he said, and I'm starting something new. He looked at Rowan, who stood beside him in work jeans and boots. We're launching Ridgerise, a venture that invests in small-town creators, builders, and makers, starting with one of the brightest miners I know. He turned to Rowan. You ready to teach the world how to dig deeper? She nodded. I've been ready. That night, they sat on her porch against string lights above, dirt underfoot. I never thought a yes would turn into all this, she whispered. Dorian looked at her hand, still rough from work. And I never thought dirt would turn into gold. They clinked their bottles and leaned back, not as billionaire and miner, but as partners. It started with a squeaky drawer. Rowan had been cleaning out her late father's old workbench to build a proper studio behind the cottage when her hand knocked loose a rusted tin box. Inside, old keys, a faded photo of her as a child in the mines, and one envelope, unopened. The handwriting made her stomach twist. To Rowan, when you're ready. She sat down on the bench and peeled it open. Inside was a short letter and a legal deed. Her eyes widened. According to the papers, her father hadn't owned the land outright. It was on long-term lease, set to expire in 60 days. Worse, the true landowner had quietly transferred the claim to a holding company just 3 months ago. Rowan's heart pounded. She checked the documents again, then froze. The company that now controlled her land was owned by Dorian's ex, Sienna Locke. If you discovered the person your partner once loved now owned your future, would you trust them to choose you again? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Rowan didn't say a word to Dorian that night. Instead, she drove to the city and walked straight into Sienna Locke's boutique law firm. The office screamed luxury glass panels, champagne trays, and carefully curated whispers. Sienna, in all her polished perfection, looked up as Rowan entered. Well, well, she smiled. The miner girl does wear something other than boots. Rowan crossed her arms. You bought my land. Sienna didn't flinch. I secured it, she replied. For development. It's near a lithium vein worth billions if drilled correctly. And you didn't think that was relevant to tell your ex? Sienna tilted her head. Dorian left me for you. I left him for business. This isn't personal. It's illegal, Rowan said flatly, pulling out the deed. That land was under protective use. You bypassed local ordinances. Sienna raised an eyebrow. You gonna take me to court? Rowan smirked. No. She placed a recorder on the table, already blinking red, because you just told the truth. On tape. Sienna's face fell. Not just dirt under your heels, Rowan said softly, and I won't let you dig up what I've built. Back at the cottage, Dorian was pacing when Rowan returned. I was going to tell you about Sienna, he started. She's been circling Valetech assets for months, but I didn't think she bought my land, Rowan said, cutting him off. He stared at her. Rowan, I swear, I had no idea. She looked at him hard. I believe you, but believing you doesn't stop what's coming. He nodded slowly. What do you want to do? Rowan didn't hesitate. Fight, but not quietly. I want to take Ridgerise public. I want to show the world that small-town founders can hold their own. He smiled. And what about us? Rowan stepped forward. If we're doing this, we do it side by side. No secrets. No suits behind our backs. Deal, he said. They sealed it the only way they knew how, hands clasped, boots planted, and eyes forward. 2 weeks later, Rowan Hale walked into a press conference with her own name on the podium. Ridgerise isn't about charity, she said. It's about ownership. And no one, no matter how rich or polished, gets to steal someone else's roots just because they think no one's watching. Behind her, Dorian smiled. The miner girl had just struck gold again. Have you ever had to fight for something you built from nothing or protect someone you love from being used? Tell us how you rose up. Your story might inspire someone today.